All right, and we are live. I'm just going to do a quick spot check to make sure that that is in fact the case. Yep, we're good. Okay. So I have the pleasure of having Russell Carroll join me today. So Russell Carroll is an accomplished author focusing on dark sword and sorcery fantasy. He passionately crafts tales of noble but flawed heroes overcoming personal demons and vanquishing wicked villains. This is the kind of adventure that he and his friends lived while playing Dungeons and Dragons. His hallmark is vivid combat, so visceral it places you right in the center of the action. His first novel was Relentless Blades, and it released in October 2024 to much success. He is come today to celebrate the release of his sequel to that, Ashbound Oaths, which again, it releases today. So we are happy to have him. Russell and his family have a lot of animals. You would probably know him as the dog walking author, but he also has, for his 2 German Shepherds, but he also has a monitor lizard, a blue-tongued skink, green-cheeked conure, ball python, and a blue and gold macaw. And you can see one of them joining him right now. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Russell to tell us and make a pitch for Ashbound Oaths.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, excited. And yes, this is Pico who is joining me here. And so he might, if I jump or something, it's probably because he bit me. So yes, Ashbound Oaths releases today. Super excited. The sequel to Relentless Blades, and we get to continue the adventures of the Scrawn, half-Scrawn Ranger Grimlock and his companion Vigilantin, the thief, disgraced knight, and then we've got their other friends Frelick and Everly and Alindra, and we've got the dastardly villain Rorgast back. So the gang's all here for the sequel. It promises much of the same action and adventure that you read if you read Relentless Blades, and hopefully kicks the story up a notch. That was the goal going into this one, and hope I've accomplished it, and I hope everybody will give it a shot. Oh, I don't hear you, Jessica. I don't know if you're on mute.
Cool. I love mute. You push the mute button and then you just, you do that. But that's why we do this live, so that we can do stuff like that. All right. So I'm excited to have you, Russell. I have actually read Relentless Blades. I am almost done with Ashbound Oaths. I got the privilege of having an ARC copy from you. So wow. I'm almost done. I was hoping to finish it before this, but it did not happen because, it is what it is.
Life. Yeah, life happens.
But, that's still cool. And, you're an interesting character, and I have enjoyed getting to know you. You released your first book kind of around the same time that I released mine. So we've been kind of, exploring this, I would say, in the same kind of time together. Yeah. But you've kind of had a wonderful presence. You do these fun dog walking author segments where you talk about different things, and I think that's been awesome. Of course, we're here to talk about Ashbound Oaths. My general questions are usually around, you did the first book. I'm curious as far as when did you start the second book? Did you start the second book before the first one was out, or did you start it after the first one was out? What was the timeline for this book?
Yeah, so I released Relentless Blades in October of last year. So I had already written probably 30,000 words or so of Ashbound Oaths by the time Relentless Blades was written. And then from November, December, January, February, somewhere in there, I finished Ashbound Oaths. And then it was just the process of the beta readers and editors and getting the cover done and all that stuff. Yeah, we may have started in the same spot, but you're much more prolific than I am. So, I'm chugging towards book 3, and you're on book 7 or something. So I'm a
Yeah.
little bit slower, but yes,
You're
yeah.
normal. That's be normal, and that's fine. It's probably given you an advantage.
I don't know if it's an advantage or not, but yeah, this is the only pace I can go at. I'm just one of these people who, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, but I have the meter of creativity that fills up, and then I write the book, whoop, and it goes like a battery that just drains to nothing. And it takes me a while. I don't know if it's my age or just me in general. And then I've got to crank the engine up again and build the creativity up before I can get on to the next one. So
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. So it I believe that this is a trilogy, or that is your approach, that there will be 3 of these books in your current plan. Did you plot? Do you have like the whole story plotted out? Or I know you're a plotter, but
yes.
I'm curious if you have like the whole thing already plotted out, and it's just a matter of getting it down at this point.
Yep, I do. I have the end all planned out, and all of the major story beats for this third. Hopefully, it will only be third book. Hoping to get it all into this one. It's going to be a little longer than the other 2, I think. But yeah, I have all the major points plotted out. It's just a matter of I'm not a plotter to the micro level, so I have the big beats, but I have to fill in everything in between as I'm going on. So I have that pantser quality as I'm writing, like, oh, I need them to have a big fight here, and this is where they do this. Who are they fighting? What are they going to do? Are they going to win, lose? So I got to figure that out as I go.
Okay, yeah, I think all of us are kind of, we're floating somewhere in between.
Yeah,
Now
I
I have,
totally.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I have met the people that are like, they're basically, their outline is like a book, sans prose.
Yeah,
um,
no, mine is more like a 2 or 3 page outline. So like I said, it gets the high points, but yeah, I don't know all the details in between.
so I'm curious, as far as you have, we were inspired in a way. These were D&D characters that built the inspiration, but obviously, you're not D&D affiliated, so you've created this world, Zaroon.
Right.
And I'm interested to know how you came up, with the idea of Zaroon as a place, and like what kind of world building you did as part of this.
Oh, well, what can I say exactly? Because the true genesis of the world building behind the scenes is something that's going to be kind of a surprise that may get revealed in this third book. I will say the name at this point, I've written about 55,000 words so far on the sequel. And I have a part where I kind of give an explanation of how the world came to be called Zaroon. So I'll kind of reveal that. It was an idea that I had talked to a friend who played D&D several years ago, and kind of like, oh, wouldn't this type of setting be kind of cool if this and this and this happened? And then it led to all this stuff. So I'm being kind of vague because I want the reveal of the background to come in a novel, not me spilling the beans here.
That feels fair
Yeah.
enough. I love that. So you'll have to stay tuned, folks, and read on.
Yes.
So obviously, I'm curious to know how this release has been different than your first book. Having had the experience of releasing your first book, you probably have learned some things. I know, but releasing a sequel at the same time is also more challenging, because a lot of people assume, like, okay, I have to read the first one. Now you got to kind of push that first one to get the second one out. So I'm curious, as far as your experience between releasing 1 and 2, what you might have learned, or what has been more challenging with the sequel.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like the first one, I had known, I had been following some folks, and I'd been trying to glean, like, okay, what the heck am I supposed to do here? So I figure, oh, okay, well, I see people do these things called cover reveals. Okay, I found SSF insiders, and they do. Okay, so they did my cover reveal for Relentless Blades, and I'm like, I guess I should get on this social media thing here and try to build some sort of a following. And so I hopped on X and I think at that time I had maybe 1,000 followers, if that. I mean, it was maybe more like 700 or 800. But I thought that was doing good, and I was trying to build that up. I had no YouTube presence. I didn't really have Instagram going on, anything like that. And so I just kind of rolled with it, and then just grew as I went. And it's a lot easier when you one book in a way, because you could just have that single-minded focus. Now you get to the sequel, and like you said, it's pros and cons, right? So I have that built-in fan base of some fans, who've read the first one and they're eager to read the second. So that's great. But you're right. On the other hand, there's a lot of folks who see this one and may go, oh, that looks cool. But, oh, that's the second one. I haven't read the first one. So yeah, I'm not going to dive into the second book. But then you're trying to get them to go back. So yeah, even now I'm trying to balance out, like, how much do I still promote Relentless Blades while I'm trying to promote this one as well, and trying to remind folks that, and so I have a deal going on right now, a special. So Relentless Blades is 99 cents for the next week for the ebook. So hopefully that, is cheap enough people can grab that if they haven't read it before Ashbound Oaths. But yeah, I admit I'm finding that challenging. I might ask you how you've done it, because you've got your whole series, and how you've managed to focus on getting the right promotion for each of the books and so many.
I would say that I didn't do it right. So I have a second opportunity, my second chance to do that, because I am working on a new series. So we're going to try and do it a little better than I did it the first time around, because it's fortunate that I'm a fast writer, because I can just be like, I have a whole set. You want to watch? Read the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that's great, right? Because that's one of the struggles we face, right? When you're writing a series. I was just thinking about that today. Like, gosh, maybe it would have been smarter just to release a standalone book and another standalone for a while. Then that way they're not dependent on each other, and you could have a couple books so that people could have your writing, get a sense of your writing style, mine, yours, other India, but they don't have to feel beholden to reading one or the other. When you jump right in with a series, there's so many people who, thank you, George R. R. Martin, who don't want to, and was it Patrick Rothross, I think, too, or something? Thanks, guys. People are like, I'm not going to touch this until you have the whole thing done, because I don't trust you're going to get it done. So there's challenges for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing that I see at people that have started a series, even if they are writing it actively and they do have a plan and they should be able to finish it. Most people are not releasing like 6 books a year. They're going to release a book a year, maybe a book every 2 years.
Yep.
And so with that time, like, it takes some time. It takes time to go through the process. I think the marketing aspect, I personally underestimated that. You have seen, one thing I've noticed with you is that you've had a lot of success doing getting people to review it with like reviewers or book. I'm curious if you have done any outreach to get those people, or if they've just picked it up because cool cover kind of thing.
No, I got lucky, I think, with Relentless Blades. I had a fair amount of ARC readers for that one, more than I did for Ashbound Oaths, actually. And I was pretty fortunate. I probably had about 10 of the ARC readers were really good about jumping on and reviewing the book. So out of those 62 ratings I have, and however many reviews that is, 50 or something, probably 10 of those were those like ARC readers at the very beginning, or 8 to 10 that were really good about reviewing. So I was very thankful for them. Otherwise, no, except that I think a fair amount of people who've read my book are fellow authors, which is good. I'm happy about that. And of course, our fellow authors are going to be more inclined, I think, to leave a review as opposed to maybe folks. And then most of my sales have been online, whether it's mostly through Amazon. And so that, I think, lends itself to folks who are maybe more willing to leave a review. I know a lot of fellow authors. I talked to quite a few of us, you and, quite a few of the other indie authors, and they have said that a lot of theirs are online, or I mean, in-person sales. And I think you maybe even have sold a fair amount in person. And I wonder how many in-person people don't maybe think about going, oh, I should jump on Amazon or I should jump on Goodreads. I think a lot of people, quite frankly, don't even know Goodreads. I think a lot of readers, a lot of them don't even know it. So they're not going to bother to go leave you a review there. That's it. Honestly, I haven't paid for any reviews. I haven't queried anybody to review a book. I haven't told anyone they have to leave a review. I kind of just got lucky, I think.
I think, that's pretty cool because, I mean, in a way it says something about either the marketing that you've done, the cover, which your covers are phenomenal, and just the message that is hitting a crowd of people that are interested in that work. So it's clear that there's a group of readers that are definitely enthusiastic enough about what you're doing that they're going out of their way to, write a blog about you or, all this different stuff. So I think that's pretty like phenomenal.
It is. No, I'm so thankful for the people who do leave the reviews. They've been very kind, and most everybody's read it seems to like it. I don't know if you've noticed this. Something I've noticed recently, I've seen some posts that have kind of struck me as strange, and it's like I've seen some people talking about now, oh, I don't want to read a book if it has too many good reviews. If it doesn't have a couple twos or ones, I don't trust it. And I started thinking, like, really? What are you supposed to do for an author if people just leave you good reviews? You haven't told them to leave a good review. They just leave mostly good reviews. And so are there really folks out there who are going to penalize the author and say, I'm not going to read reviews. Yeah, it's like it was blowing me away. Like, yeah, I guess I need somebody to say this book sucks. And then someone will believe, okay, this is legitimate. Somebody hated it.
Yeah, you gotta find that particular reader that, like, the romantic reader that's probably not gonna jive with too much.
Exactly.
No, I think so. Like I said in the beginning, I've started this one. I am most of the way through it. The interesting thing that you've done in this one is that you have a lot of POVs from your villain, which is unusual, but I'm enjoying it. I think that's really interesting. I would love to hear your, obviously logistically it helps to know what's going on the other side of the fence, but like, how was it to write from the perspective of a villain?
Well, ironically enough, when I wrote Relentless Blades, it had POV from the villains as well. It actually had Rorgast POVs and some of the other villain POVs. When I worked with my developmental editor, though, she suggested focusing it, narrowing it down, focusing on the main characters, Vidge and Grimm, kind of telling it from their perspective and leaving it more mysterious what the bad guys are doing. And quite frankly, a lot of what I had done in Relentless Blades, I don't think I really fleshed them out as much as I hoped maybe I did. I still, I kind of look back on it and like, okay, I have POVs from them, but I don't know if the reader's really getting that much more of their personality. So I made the decision to cut them, which someday I may put back in some sort of an omnibus author's special edition of Relentless Blades where I add them back. I'm toying with that idea. But when I got to Ashbound Oaths, I thought, man, I got to give Rorgast's point of view. And if you've been reading the book and you said you're close to the end, I don't want to give spoilers, but there is a specific reason that Rorgast needs to be explored. And he's integral and tied in to the storyline of everybody. All of the characters are tied together. So I felt like he had to have his story. And I just think he's cool, quite frankly. I think I love Rorgast. I admit it. I love writing the guy. And he, for me, is my Darth Vader. And something that always stuck with me at the end of Star Wars, the original, right? Death Star gets blown up. Luke wins. Darth Vader spins off into space. And then later you find out there's this big bad emperor. You didn't really see the emperor in the first book. But then you're thinking, well, what happened when Darth Vader had to go back and face the Emperor and say, oops, I let the Death Star get blown up. I failed. My bad. From what we learn about the Emperor later, right? He's not a real forgiving guy. So I always wondered, well, how did that interaction go? So for me, that was what kind of led me into Wargast and like, wow, okay. So what does this guy do after spoilers, after you don't achieve what you set out to achieve? Because most books, right, when we read a book or watch a movie, usually the end of the movie, the end of the book is the bad guy loses and they're either killed or sent to jail or whatever happens, but that's it. You don't really, you just don't,
Yeah.
you don't focus on them anymore. They're just gone. So I'm like, well, now I got to explore what happened to this guy who didn't achieve what his mission was. And that was fun to explore.
Yeah. I find it's interesting to me that your developmental editor suggested the idea of like focusing in on the two characters for that first book, like really kind of narrowing the focus, giving people that opportunity. And now in the second book, you've expanded it out to at this point, I think 4, maybe 5 POVs, but like you have more, so you're expanding it
Right.
out, making the world bigger, different storylines are weaving together.
Right.
um I think that, to some degree that makes sense to me, like get people more familiar, kind of invest them in a couple characters and then kind of grow the world from there. I don't know if you have thoughts about that advice, or how it's worked for your storytelling.
Yeah, I think it worked pretty well because the first book is my first book. It was probably good to keep it kind of streamlined, keep it kind of somewhat linear, keep me focused as a first-time author, keep the reader focused. So I think that was good. But yeah, I knew for the sequel I had to get bigger, bolder, explore the world more, and because if you read Relentless Blades, a lot of the characters, Everly, Fralick, Alindra, they don't even show up until the last third of the book, right? So they are, they're important, but they're definitely minor characters or secondary characters. And so for this book, even, beyond Rorgast, I wanted to look at some of these other characters who didn't get as much play in the first book, specifically Everly, and really kind of expand out her character. And again, it's about, okay, what happens when you think you've won these heroes and then you go back to your life, whatever life you lived. And so it was fun to explore that, and then their journeys and how weaving everybody back together. So yeah, it was fun to explore the different characters.
That's actually, that brings up something that I also wanted to ask about, which I found interesting about your stories, is that the characters, they do a lot of development in the first book, but they're not perfect and they fall back into old patterns. And I appreciate to some degree that like they're humanized, right, in that way.
Yes. Yeah, no, that was a big thing. Again, trying not, it's so tough not to want to
Not
give
to spoil.
spoilers for Ashbound, but you're right. Let's just, when you think about things like addiction, um, it's very rare that somebody kicks an addiction first time, right? It's very rare, no matter how well intentioned they are. It's rare that somebody can just recognize, have the self recognition, like, oh, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Done. There may be exceptional people who it happens. Cold turkey can do it, but most people get tempted, and it takes a while before you really overcome those issues you have, those inner demons.
Yeah, and I find that I like character stories. So I like I like stories where it's like the people feel real. They feel like they're not perfect. That's generally my biggest complaint about a lot of stories that I've picked up. It's like the hero is always so dang perfect and they don't have like the flaws. They just are perfect, and the flaws that nobody else recognizes their perfection. But
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
heroes that have real weaknesses, but they're still heroic. They're still clearly the good guys against the bad guys, and I definitely appreciate that.
No, thank you. Yeah, that was my goal because I feel the same as you. The characters should be human. We all have our strengths, weaknesses, good qualities, bad qualities, and we do the best we can. Now, obviously, my stories lean more towards the action adventure, so my thrust is always forward momentum, trying to keep it going. Uh, so if I was to say my own shortcoming, I probably don't even dive as deep as I could into characters because it's the trade-off that I make for my style is more forward momentum, yeah, keeping the story, the action going. But I did want to still have those moments of pause to have people recognize that there's more going on. And I wanted to explore relationships from different angles. So in Relentless Blades, you have Vigilante, and he's the disgraced knight, and you know he goes through his journey, and he explains his trauma and his past and things that happened to him, and a lot of it has to do with his father, who's very overbearing, portrayed as arrogant, dismissive, and in this book, we get to meet his father in Ashbound. And so that was exciting for me as well to then, okay, let's look at this person who we only know about through Vidge's point of view. This is him talking about. And so we took that as gospel. Well, Norad, his father, he obviously has his own recollection of how things happened and what his thoughts were in his interactions with Vigilante. So that was exciting for me to kind of flip that a little bit. And because no two people remember the same events the same way, right? And we all have our biases and the way we look at things. We remember things sometimes quite differently than other people. So that was fun in Ashmanos as well.
Yeah, for sure. So your big thing is action, as you just mentioned. I would love to hear, you know, and I agree. Like you do the battle sequences very very well. I'd be interested to hear more about your inspiration for that, your approach to that. How you've become such a good crafter of the action.
Well, I have to give first and foremost credit to R.A. Salvatore. So the people who read R.A. Salvatore know I am like the Jedi Padawan to his Yoda Jedi Master of writing the fight scenes, writing swordplay, and that. I mean, the guy is a master. So if you want to understand how to write a good fight scene, I think I do a pretty good job. But then you can read R.A. Salvatore and read The Master, someone I would eventually aspire to when it comes to writing fight scenes. Another thing, though, is I've just always loved boxing. So I grew up, I'm a little older, so I grew up when Mike Tyson was in his heyday, when it was must-see television watching him fight. And then I was there at the beginning of the MMA when that was nothing, and then now has grown UFC into something huge. And I watched all those early fights, the Hoist Gracies with his jiu-jitsu, and then watching the MMA sport evolve, the combat sport. So all of these things, I'm watching how people move and fight, and reading Salvatore, and it's just something I think with all authors, there's things that just excite us and inspire us. So for me, it's always been action. So when it comes to writing the fight scene, that's what really gets my juices flowing. I'm like, okay, I'm into this. Whereas some other stuff I struggle with, which like stringing fight scene to the next fight thing. Then I got to figure out what happens in the middle, and sometimes that's a little tougher for someone like me. It's like, can't I just jump to the next fight scene? Oh, I gotta have something happens in between. Okay, yeah,
It's got to flow. There's got to
yeah,
be.
yeah. They can't just fight every page. That would get boring. So we got to have something else for them to do. Yeah.
So what I feel like I remember something about you had shared like that you had a fight scene that was like pushing 30 pages or something at one point.
Yes, that's Ashbound Oath, and I mean, I think the last fourth, or at least fourth, maybe the last third of Ashbound Oath is like
Fight scene, fight scene.
battle.
I feel like
Like,
I'm
I mean,
getting there.
if you'll
Yeah.
know it when you get there, and it's multiple battles actually going on, because as you said, I have different points of view. So I have one camp of the characters over here doing something and another camp over here, but they've both culminated into battles, that are kind of the final battles. And yeah, once the battle kicks off, and you'll know it in Ashbound Oath. In fact, the cover of Ashbound Oath, that comes from the final battle. And so, if you look at the cover, that tells you that's the battle. When you see that part, from then on it's on.
Excellent. All right. So I feel like I need to give the folks that are watching, a lot of the people that are probably going to watch this, they're maybe writers themselves. I'm interested to give other authors a chance to talk maybe a bit about things they've learned along the way, their process, things that you highly recommend as far as from your perspective as an author, like what people really shouldn't be skimping on or what they need to make sure they're doing to see some degree of success. But I'll give you a chance to
So we're talking from a writing
from a
perspective,
writer
or
for whatever for how to get the book out there in a way that it is received well and that you have a chance to make yourself sell some books.
well, I mean, first of all, obviously you got to craft a good story. So one of the things I definitely believe in is that I think most indie authors, especially, should invest in an editor. At the very least, maybe not a developmental editor if you don't want to, depending on how much money you have, because it can get pricey, but at least a line or a copy editor, and a proofreader to help go through, because we start to get blind. You read these pages 100 times, and it's natural for your eyes to just miss things because you've read it so many times, your brain fills in any missing gaps. So I highly recommend saving the money and getting yourself an editor. And you can find them who are good at reasonable prices, which can still be a little pricey for some, but I highly recommend that. Number two, I highly recommend you get yourself a good cover, because it's still true, I think, even in this day and age of the internet, that covers help sell books, or at least help draw your eyes to it, at least get looks at the book. So I highly recommend that. From a writing technical perspective, I say look at the writing rules, understand them, and then be willing to break them. So be willing to try whatever works for you. Give it a shot. Just because they say you're not supposed to head hop or you're supposed to show don't tell, give it a shot. Give it your best effort. What works for you as a writer, and then that's my biggest thing. Figure out what works for you, because you can listen to me talk. I may have a different process than you, than a dozen other writers you listen to, who are going to tell you, like some people say, oh, you just have to write it all, get it all down, don't edit it all as you go, just regurgitate it all on the page and then go back at the end. That doesn't work for me. I have to clean it a little bit as I go. So for me, it's write a chapter, maybe sometimes two, and then go back and at least clean it up. Now, it's not a final edit, but at least it gets it to a point where, to me, I wouldn't be embarrassed to share it with somebody. It's not in its final form, but I don't want to share anything of just the garbage vomit that I put it. And I can't wait until I'm 400 pages in. I don't even want to think about tackling that at that stage. But some people, it works for them. So that'd be my big advice. Figure out what works for you as far as writing, and write what you're passionate about writing. I just saw one of the most awful posts I think I've seen. Is somebody posted something about before you start writing a book, you need to look at the trends because you don't want to waste time writing a book that isn't what the trend. It's not going to sell. Now, from a practical standpoint, if you're just looking purely to make money, I guess that makes some sense, right? If romantasy is big and you just want to try to make money, I guess you could try to write romantasy or whatever the genre is. But I would never be able to finish a romantasy book writing one because I have no interest in it, no passion. So even if they told me, dude, that's where the money is, write a romance, I'm not going to do it. So I say write what you're passionate about, whether it's a thriller or fantasy or horror, which horror seems pretty big right now, but
It
whatever
does,
it
it really
is,
does.
yeah, horror is blown up. So I mean, whatever it is, you pick your genre. And in this whole talk about, should I write in first person or third person? Should I write omniscient, close? Write what you like to read and what fits your style. And all these trends come and go. So at some point, you may not be writing something that's on trend now, but it'll come back around at some point.
Yeah, that's the hope anyways. And
Yeah.
I think the reality that most people don't want to think about is that even if you write to the trend just because, that's where the money is now, that may not like go anywhere. Like you could write the whatever romantasy, and if it doesn't get the right eyeballs on it, it doesn't matter that that's trending. You could still sell 2 copies, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, it, I know it, any of the authors who watch this know the marketing, the promoting is the hardest part. It's trying to get the eyeballs on it. One thing that I see pop up a lot online too is people say, like, why are these authors all marketing to themselves? They should be marketing to readers. I'm going, we're not trying to market only to other authors, although other authors are readers. We're trying to get it out there, but these algorithms, whether it's TikTok or X or Instagram, once you are an author and you start typing in books and it just starts matching you with other authors, and then other authors become your followers and you follow them. So then you suddenly start getting pulled together, which is not a bad thing. I love the writing community, but just know we're not trying just to market to other authors. We're trying to find the readers. It's just hard to get to them through the maze of the algorithms that seem to be changing all the time.
And I think the reality is that reader, unless you are literally like a book reviewer or a booktuber, like reader is a classification that people aren't generally going on to social media and being like, I read the book. They just don't do that. So even if you wanted to identify readers, the algorithm doesn't have anything to cling on to. So if you're talking about books, you're probably either writing the books or you're editing the books or like you're a book reviewer. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, people tell me, well, you should market to people who play Dungeons and Dragons or play the role-playing games like Warcraft or Skyrim. I'm like, yeah, but the problem is a lot of these groups, a lot of them won't let you market to the groups. Like they say, no spam, no self-promotion, no nothing. And so, yeah, you try to engage and then kind of eventually sneak in like, oh, by the way, I write, or, you have your book in your profile or something, but it's not as simple as it sounds just to find these people to market to. We're trying.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the biggest battle of your life, I guess, if you want to write stuff.
Yes. Getting people to see it.
We do have a little comment that's, he'd love to hear. Awen would love to hear your advice for the do's and don'ts of a debut novel launch. Arwen.
Oh, God, the do's and don'ts. Well, the do's that's easier. Plan it far in advance. Much farther than I did for my debut, which was like a couple months or whatever. Like, if you're just beginning to write your novel, you're already behind. Like, you should be working on your social media presence, building up some followers, interacting with people, learning, so that when you are ready to announce your book, you've already kind of greased the wheels and you've kind of built a group of people who are following you and who like you and are interested in what you have to say. So it's never too early to build your following. I kind of mentioned, do's and don'ts of a launch. Yeah, make sure you've invested and got a decent cover. Even if you don't spend a lot of money, you can find ways to have good covers. Like I mentioned, getting an editor, making sure your manuscript is polished, looks professional. And then, yeah, try to find, if you can, somebody who will help you with like a cover reveal. I'm a big believer you want to have allot your time to get you some beta readers to get feedback. And then if you can, your advanced reader copies, your ARCs, send those out in enough time to get feedback, make your changes. So I guess the biggest thing is plan and give yourself time. Don't try to rush it. Now, one thing I've learned though from these 2 books that I think I'll apply to my next book, and I've seen some other authors with their launches. I would say though, when it comes time, by the time you announce the book to when it's released, I really only think that needs to be 3 or 4 weeks. Like I did 6 or 8 weeks for Relentless Blades and like 6 weeks for Ashbound Oaths. What I find is you get a lot of hype at the beginning and then weeks of just kind of nothing, and then a scramble at the end where people will pre-order your book or whatever. So I've kind of seen some other authors, and I'm thinking for the next book, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks is enough time. I don't think you need 2 months or 3 months of, oh, I'm releasing it in February. Hey, everybody, nobody's going to remember or care until it gets closer. So, yeah, that would be don't. Gosh, I don't really have any don'ts per se.
Don't publish an unpolished manuscript.
Yeah, that would be it. And
don't have a terrible cover.
Don't have a terrible cover, and don't fall for the scam. I guess that watch out for the scammers, because the minute they see you're an author, they're going to come out of the woodwork. So any of the people who talk about having you pay for anything, watch out for that. Watch out for, you'll be able to see the scammers because they almost always start the same way. Like, hi, Jessica, I love what I've seen of your book. Can you tell me about your writing journey and what inspired you to write your book? No author has ever messaged me. No legitimate author Jessica and I have been talking for over a year. She never once messaged me and said, hey, Russell, gosh, what was your inspiration for this? We don't do that. No, it's real. So that's a marketer who's just trying to get in. So watch out for them.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I want to give you a chance, Russell. I don't know if you would like to or not, but if you would like to read a little bit from your book, I would open it up for you to do so.
Oh, shoot. I do not have it with me. Close. I could grab a copy of it if we have a second. Although I'm kind of a slow reader, so it might.
It doesn't have to be a lot,
Yeah. All right. Let me hold that thought.
Now we wait. You guys got to send in chats so that I can pop them up and everybody can read. Yeah, your book with no title. I love you. What genre do you write in?
All right, I'm back. So this is
Beautiful.
The prologue for Ashbound Oaths. And yes, I have prologues and epilogues in both my books and will in the 3rd book. I love prologues. I don't have anything against them. I don't know why people don't. Although I keep them short. I don't have like 10-page prologues. Anyway, Alindra tiptoed through the damp grass toward the vine-covered arbor within the grand spire's courtyard, using the gentle moonlight and the soft swirling colors in the sky overhead to illuminate her way. As she drew near the towering wooden pergola, her skin tingled as if she'd been dunked in frigid water. While not a painful sensation at first, the feelings intensified as she approached. She'd experienced this before. The night Rorgath shattered the scepter of Seamathu along the desolate banks of the infernal chasm. That's the first paragraph from the prologue of Ashbound Oaths.
Excellent. All right. With that, what I usually do is I give you a chance to promote yourself. So, where can people find you? What's next for you? What to keep on a lookout for? And of course, make your last plug here.
Well, you can find me on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, even Blueski, Threads. I'm kind of trying them all out. Most notably on X. I'm sure I can give Jessica the link if she doesn't have it. Definitely YouTube, where you'll find me as the dog walking author. I can have that link sent as well.
Yep.
I love to have those little dog walking videos where I chat about anything writing related or just anything pop culture that pops into my head. I'll go ahead and throw some little video together and give you my thoughts. People seem to like them, probably just like the dogs, but that's okay. Read Ashbound Oaths. You'll love it. Here's Rorgast, really scary dude. This is Esme, the Farashar. This battle takes place in the book. Really epic. See the little dragon in the back coming in. Anyway, yeah, the book, it's coming out. It's out now. Check it out. I think you'll love it. Lots of action. What do I have going on? 55,000 words into the hopefully series finale. Hopefully we'll get that finished early to mid next year. And from there, I think I might dabble in some novellas or shorter stories. Those seem to be in vogue right now, and something that even maybe at my slower speed, maybe I can crank out a couple of novellas. Yeah, a couple shorter stories, and we'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Russell, for joining me. And congratulations on the release of your second book here, Ashbound Oaths. I hope everybody goes out and buys Relentless Blades, buys Ashbound Oaths. Again, they're fantastic books. They're well written, lots of action, very fast pace. I think you guys will enjoy them. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. But
all right. Thanks for having me, Jessica. I appreciate it. You're awesome. I love you. Thank you for doing stuff like this. Thanks for doing the forums that you put together for authors to chat and learn and share ideas. Fantastic. So you're championing the indie authors, and much appreciated from all of us.